I just wanted to share something quickly. It's a Friday night and I'm getting ready for my workshop tomorrow. And I've been super frustrated with agile estimation. I mean, it's been a subject for as long as capital A Agile has been around. And it's not complicated, it's not difficult. And yet it's been, I think, misused, misunderstood. And the misunderstandings about it completely get in the way of most organizations, most teams' ability to become agile. One of the things I teach at my workshop all the time is that measuring work as a form of progress is not useful, I don't think. It's what we always did in the past, right? Because we didn't have any, we didn't know. But you can do a lot of work, and it can be great work. You can do it super well. But if you don't make the right thing, then it doesn't matter how good the work was. So measuring all that progress on making the work and what the work costs um, isn't going to help you out. And a lot of times I've noticed agile estimation, which I use in quotes because it's the wrong word, is used for that. And that's just I don't think what it can be, what it's useful for. So I'm going to walk you through something that I do in my workshop to try and see if we can clear this up. And I would love it if people would sort of comment, retweet, do whatever you can, um, get this conversation going because I don't understand why it's so hard to understand. A little bit more about that at the end. So here's the way I normally try to explain it, and maybe I'm out of my mind, but I think this makes sense, and I'm pretty sure it's what it's supposed to be. I know in Scrum, an empirical process, you can't figure out how long and how much. The only way to figure out how long and how much is to know ahead of time what work you're going to do, and that's if you can do that, that means that you've probably already done a big requirements gathering phase. You've done a big design phase, and if you can do that, do that. It's safer than Scrum for sure. But Scrum is for things where you can't solve the problem on paper up front, right? So let's take a look at this. This is a little thought experiment. So I'm throwing a party, and I like origami. So I think to save some dough, I'm gonna decorate tables at the party with origami, right? And I'm going to get some of my friends to help me out. And I'm going to ask them, um, which of these things, the crane, the hat, the boat, or the plane, do you think is the hardest to do? It doesn't. I don't have to know how much. Uh, I don't have to know how much time it's going to take, or anything, or what it's going to cost. Just tell me which one looks the hardest.
The crane.
Okay. All right. I agree with you. Now, which one looks the easiest of the three that are left?
Paper airplane.
Plane or boat or hat?
Plane.
Okay. And then of the two that remain, here's what I can tell you about this. The boat and the hat are pretty close to the same thing. They, if you can make the hat, it's like two folds to turn it inside out into a boat. So I don't know that they're the same, but if you took both of those together, do you think in terms of difficulty, they're closer to the plane or to the bird?
The bird.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So they came up with this, right? They think the plane's easiest. They think the crane's hardest. And the hat and the boat are kind of sort of in the middle, but a little bit closer to the bird. Now, traditional agile estimation has all kinds of shenanigans, I would call it, for estimating. And some of them, they were good ideas at the time. And in context, they might still be good ideas. I don't know. I don't have much time for estimation generally because A, I think it's the wrong word. You're not real. What I just did is not what I think of in traditional project management as estimation, right? Estimation is here's a thing and you want to judge it against some fixed scale like time or dollars. But in this case, we're just comparing these different pieces of work to each other, right? Like the crane's harder to do than the plane. We don't really know how much. So that's what t-shirt sizes were created for, right? So that labeling scheme just looks exactly like you'd think. This, by the way, is called magic estimation, or at least that's what I was told by a facilitator that I respected. Sometimes I hear people call it team estimation game, right? So, and then these labels are just like this, right? You've seen, I'm sure you've seen this. So, small, medium, large, extra large, and I always leave one for something that's just, we need to know more. It's too complicated. It's too big. It's too risky. It's too whatever. Like that's just not a good, if we're talking Scrum language, it's not a good PBI. This I use an interrobang because I'm a nerd. It's a combination of an exclamation point and a question mark. It means it's sort of like when you go, what? Yeah. So I've got small, medium, large, extra large, and what? And we're done. And these could be used just fine. Now, I don't think you could use these to try and figure out how long and how much, because when we say that a boat is a large and a plane is a small, all we're saying is that a boat's harder to make than a plane, and we don't know how much. Now, there's another scheme that's extremely popular, and I think it's because it was used in a lot of electronic tools. I call it Storyish Points, and that's just my own bias because story points, originated with extreme programming, which is where I first learned about agility. Not a lot of people seem to do extreme programming, but they use extreme programming words. So, and this is what storyish points look like, I think. Instead of using small, medium, large, extra large, and what, we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 5. Oh my goodness. 8. Well, 13. And it just goes on forever. Like, I don't know why. First of all, you can't use that many labels, I don't think, because of the Likert scale. The Likert scale says human beings can only really meaningfully judge between maybe 4 or 5 categories. I never use more than 5 labels, and I always use one that's a what? So right away, I got an issue with this. Now, if it's working for you, by all means do it. But here's the thing you got to understand about it. These mean the same exact thing as these, right? So if I say a plane is a small, or a plane is a 2, and I say a boat is a large, or a boat is a 5, all I'm saying is that a boat's harder to do than a plane, and I don't know how much. Now, it gets a little confusing because some of the numbers, the arithmetic works in your head too easily, right? Like, let's say we actually said that, hats were a little bit harder, and we put them in the extra large category. Now, a hat's an extra large, and a plane is a small. That doesn't tell you much. It's just a hat's a lot harder, but it's not the hardest thing. But if you think a hat is an 8 and a plane's an 2, then you might think that a hat is 4 times as hard as a plane. And if you kept track of how long it took you to make the plane, you might be able to figure out the hat, or vice versa. Except for that's not true. That's not what these labels mean. And here's why. Because these are all abstracts. These are all, here's an idea that we think somebody wants or needs. In Scrum, we call it a product backlog item. All right. We don't have an idea right now of what the solution is. It's a need or a problem to satisfy or solve. Right. So these are make-believe. Now, when we actually go to make these things, weird stuff happens usually. Stakeholders usually want stuff that we never anticipated, right? So let's just take this example of the party and we say, okay, hat, plane, boat, bird. Okay, Mr. Product Owner, which thing's the most important? Because that's going to, or most valuable, that's going to end up near the top of the list. And maybe the product owner says, well, I want the airplane. All right. So we'll bring this down here. We'll work on that. Now, you like that airplane? No. I don't want that airplane. That's not fancy enough. Stick always want fancier stuff. Well, what kind of plane do you want? I want this kind of plane. Oh wow, that's what is that? It's like a jet or something. I don't actually even know how to make that. That's going to be really, really hard. Now you can do that. You can absolutely do that, but something's going to happen later, right? So this thing that we originally thought was going to be a small, that's now way harder than anything else we planned to do, and that happens, right? And the way you deal with that in any kind of agile approach is you then, when you get towards the end and you don't have any more time and money, and you say, okay, Mr. Product Owner, remember how you wanted that bird? Well, we spent all of the time and effort and everything on the crazy jet airplane that took forever. So we can't make a bird. You know what we can make? We'll make a butterfly. It's still an animal that flies, but it's a lot easier because it's only like 4 folds. Now, what happened? Through the normal outcome of exploring product development to build the right thing, which is what most agile approaches are for. They're not about going fast. They're not about getting more done. They're about building the right thing, right? That's why measuring work for progress doesn't work, right? So this is a perfectly reasonable scenario, and that's what I would normally do. But as a result, these labels that we gave when we didn't know what we were doing don't actually correlate to any of that stuff. So, I hope that helps. I have an idea. I've invented my own proprietary Fearless Agility estimation scheme that I call WTF Interrobang. Here's how that goes. Instead of all of these doodads, let's just throw that shenanigans out. All right. And even instead of t-shirt sizes, which might be okay. But I don't know. I've seen people try to use both of these and just end up with lots of confusion, lots of wasted time in meetings, estimating and other stuff. All right. So here's how Fearless Agility WTF estimation works. You do the same sort of thing. Let's go back to the original thing here. All right. So we had a bird, real hard. Took me a long time to learn how to make that. We had plane. We had hat and boat. They were sort of in the middle. But let's put them like this, just for the sake of illustration, right? Now, instead of using story points, instead of using t-shirt sizes, instead of using powers of 2 or any of the other crazy estimation schemes that I've tried all of them and never been that successful with, from now on, why don't you use, and you can use this for free. I'm using this as Creative Commons license. And we spent a lot of time coming up with this system. It works pretty well. It's called the WTF Estimation System. And it looks like this. Shot of whiskey. Tuba. Fearless Fosdick. Interrobang. And there you go. Did the same thing. But it's going to be pretty hard to mess with these labels, so you're welcome. So there you have it. Fearless Agility's patented WTF estimation scheme. Feel free to use it, pass it around. I hope it helps you out. Be fearless. Happy scrumming. If you want to see something like that in your CSM, come to my workshop. Peace.